Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
Anyone feel really, really uncomfortable with that gospel reading? If you don't, talk to me later. That should make you feel really, really uncomfortable. And I think it's because when we think of Jesus, literally one of the titles that we give Jesus is Prince of Peace. We think of nice Jesus, flowing robes. You just want to hang out with him. He's really cool. He's sweet. He's nice. And then Jesus turns on you. You're like, whoa, we did not see that one coming. And so what do we do with that? Because we're very comfortable with loving, kind, nice Jesus. Vanilla Jesus, if you will. He's kind of like those vanilla wafers. Not great, but safe. You can get vanilla wafers because, you're not going to be like, woo, vanilla wafers. But you're like, it's fine. You can make a banana pudding out of it. Right? Or in my house, we make rum balls, but talk to me later about that. So what do we do with mad, angry Jesus? And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I think we as white middle-class people really struggle with anger. Anger is not okay. And as Episcopalians, anger is not okay. Anyone been in that church that's like full of division and anger all the time? You're like, whoa, Yeah, I'm one of those people. I am not a conflict person. You might find that slightly surprising because I'm kind of a jerk sometimes, but I'm pretty conflict avoidant. Ask my spouse. I can literally find anything else to do than discuss the grocery list with you. So conflict avoidant, that's just me. And I think for all of us, that's just kind of how we are. We tend to be conflict avoidant. We go to one extreme or the other. We're either conflict avoidant, the other extreme. We're so angry all the time. We are ready for rage at the drop of a hat, right? It just depends on our mood. And it depends on the political climate and who we're around. So we have these two extremes. And I think we need to come to grips with the fact that complacency is not peace. And I think that's really, really important for us in churches to hear. Complacency is not peace. Refusing to have an uncomfortable conversation does not equal a healthy marriage. Y'all know those marriages, right? They're like, oh, fight. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait for your divorce attorney to call you. Because, no. If there are two humans together, you better not agree on everything. You know that's not healthy, right? And in churches, we can sometimes get into this. Oh, we can't have an uncomfortable conversation because that means that the church is full of division. And what actually ends up happening is that division and fracture will begin because of uncomfortable conversations that never happened. So the question we have to wrestle with is, how do we deal with anger? And how do we deal with disagreement in a healthy, constructive way? Because we struggle with that, don't we? We have a tendency to think that anger immediately means rage. And here's the tricky thing about anger. If you allow anger to take over, you will get to a place where you can't go back. And I always say this in marriage counseling. I'm like, one of the things that we're going to talk about is how you argue. Like, oh, we don't argue. I'm like, then you shouldn't get married. Because you've got to know how to disagree. And we as Christians in our climate right now, we've got to learn how to disagree in a constructive, okay way. Because low-level anger, that's okay. Hate, it's really hard to ratchet back from hate, guys. Because by the time you've let that build and build and build and build and build, You've come to a place where you don't even see that other person as human anymore, let alone equal to you, let alone full of ideas. So it's really, really important for us to talk about Jesus' anger. Because you're right, Jesus loses his temper here. And I find that slightly comforting that Jesus loses his temper. I'm like, oh, thank God, it's not just me. Anyone else here ever lose your temper? If you haven't, talk to me later. I'll give you the rum balls I mentioned earlier. But there's nothing wrong with anger. In fact, it's a good thing because that's what sometimes compels us to change, right? It's really important. Anger and fear sometimes, because if we're comfortable and fat and sassy, we ain't changing anything. This world works just the way it is. But we've got to get to a place where there's a little bit of fear and a little bit of anger to think, okay, we got to change this. And Jesus gets to that point in his ministry where he's like, y'all, I'm done. I'm done. You either get it or we move on because I've had enough. We've had enough of nice Jesus. And y'all, we need to go to a place where we've had enough of nice Jesus. Because I'm a rich preacher, and I mean, iffy. We're going to use that term very widely here. And we are drawn to safety because our pensions depend on butts and seats. And I like my pension. I do. And so sometimes we make choices and as a church, we make choices that may not necessarily be the best choices. We make nice Jesus choices. And y'all, nice Jesus has gotten us into a really, really messy place right now. Have you been out there in this world? It is a hot mess. It's always been a hot mess. Don't get too worked up about it. It's been that way. But we've had enough of nice Jesus. Jesus and God have had enough of nice Jesus. It's time for us to kind of let that go and be okay with our anger. Because our anger is what drives us to do something about it. And that's a good thing. But I want us to also counterbalance that with love and space. Because what happens is the other extreme of nice Jesus that we've gotten into as Christians is righteous hatred. You ever met anyone who's a righteous hater? You ever been a righteous hater? Talk to me later. We've all been there. Right? You can justify that. You're like, well, hello, have you read Scripture? Right? And we got one side who's like, no gays, have you read Scripture? And we got the other side that's like, hello, universal health care, have you read Scripture? Right? And it's been either of those? No? Okay, good. This is such a perfect church. We're like, no, we're straight down the middle all the time. I know what you're talking about. Those people out there struggle with these issues, not us. Those people out there. So we need some space for that, right? So the first thing that I want us to do is accept our anger. Because anger can be holy. I'm going to say that again because I think it's really, really important. Anger can be holy. Anger can be divine. What can never, ever, ever be holy or divine is hate. Do not ever let your anger consume you. Anger is a tool. It is an impetus for change. It is not something that should ever consume or control. Ever. And that's what you and I have to learn. Because we're either, and we say we can never, ever, ever be angry because that's bad. Nice Jesus, he says anger's bad. Or we are consumed by our anger and it becomes rage. And rage becomes hate. And hate is always, 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 always evil. There is no such good thing as good hate. Ever. What I ask us today is because we need some change, guys. And we need a little fire in our belly to make some of the changes that need to happen. We've got to be a little bit uncomfortable. Can I tell you about uncomfortable? Uncomfortable is my mic right now. I'm just going to go ahead and say this really has nothing to do with my sermon, but I feel like I should tell you because you're going to see me like, really uncomfortable today. So as many know, I have MS, and heat and I do not get along, so I don't vest in the summer, right? Because it makes me uncomfortable. It makes you uncomfortable when I pass out, and that's just gets weird. But the other part of that is, so for my mic, I have to have a pocket. Now, would you like my feminist rant on pockets? I'm here to offer it to you if you are interested in it. Okay, so in the French Revolution, we had pockets. Up until the French Revolution, we had pockets. Pockets are important. You got to carry your stuff in it, right? But the Revolution comes along, and they're like, well, what if women hide guns or stuff? What if they hide weapons in their pockets? So they took our pockets away. And the French set all good fashion. I mean, they still do. If you ever see French women, they're fantastic, right? So they took the pockets away because you don't know what these women are in their pockets. And to this day, they don't have pockets. And I like this dress, and I put it on this morning. I was like, oh, that's cute. I'll wear that today. It doesn't have pockets, you see, because you don't know what I could be carrying in my pockets. I could overthrow men higher had pockets. So I don't have pockets. So I have a mic that's like stuffed in the back of my shirt, and I look like Quasimodo thinking of the French. And I'm uncomfortable. And I'm uncomfortable with the patriarchal hierarchy because I don't have pockets. I feel anger, and you want to know what? Then anger's okay. Because that anger is what will lead to change. It is. Also, next time I will wear a dress with pockets. Change. See, it does come back around. My rant about pockets will come back around. You just trust me, and we'll get there. It is our discomfort and our awkwardness, and to a point where we're like, that's insane. It's insane that we don't have pockets. It's insane that people are not treated equally. It is insane that we can't take care of people in poverty. It is insane. And are you and I uncomfortable with that? We need to be. We need to be really, really uncomfortable with that. People, should I hate all men because of stupid patriarchy? No, I married one and I like him. I'm just blamed for this mic. But, and he's over like, yeah, I totally am. But guys, how do we balance our anger and our discomfort with change and still balance that with love? Because guys, that's the Christian way. The way of Jesus is this: be uncomfortable, be angry, love, and seek peace and pockets. Look for pockets. When you buy your dresses, make sure they have pockets.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.